What's going on, my secret mentor family? Welcome to another episode. Today we got a special guest in studio with us, hailing from Brooklyn, New York, Howard University alumni with a bachelor's degree in political science and sociology. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Kristal Hansley. Now we know Howard's slogan, truth and service. And we know that you're in the solar field. So it's imperative that we get some truth and service from you today. Can we get that from you today?
Nothing less.
That's all we need. That's all we ask for. That's all we ask for.
Nothing less.
So a lot of people are not really familiar with solar farming, which you are the first Black CEO in America. Is that correct?
Black woman.
Oh my goodness. The first black woman CEO in America. We have her in the studio today. And I think we need like an audience clap or something for that alone. But for the people that are interested in getting into the solar farming industry, can you give them a little backstory on how you actually got into it? Okay.
Well, I'm Kristal Hansley, and I'm the CEO and founder of We Solar. We Solar is a community solar organization that allows people or gives people access to shared solar, meaning you don't have to put panels on your roof. You can tap into a local offsite solar farm and receive solar credits, and it's as if you received it's as if you have rooftop solar the entire time. So it's just a new virtual technical way of tapping into solar industry without actually having to put it on your roof.
So how did you actually get started in this field in the first place?
Well, I stumbled across this. I took a break from my government political background. I worked on Capitol Hill. And after the Trump administration became the thing and was
ready to relocate?
No, I mean, we just lost seats and in the House and the Senate. So there just wasn't a lot of upward mobility for staffers. And I was looking for something new. And the private sector is something that I stumbled across. And I actually had a passion for the renewable energy space after selling cars. And
you were a salesman.
Yeah, I actually took a random car salesman job, and I wound up selling electric vehicles. And I was the only Black woman on the sales floor. I was the only woman on the sales floor. And I mean, these middle-aged white men was just not really that interested in the renewable energy cars or the electric cars. They knew about the Corvettes.
Okay.
They knew about the Silverados. But, I mean, there was a niche for me in that sales job. And I did really well in selling renewable cars. And I'm like, I think that I could go into this industry and find something comparable that's not as stressful. And so that's how I stumbled across Neighborhood Sun. That gave me best of both worlds because they were looking for a salesperson, but they was also looking for someone who had a political background to create the political infrastructure for the new industry. And Maryland was one of the first states, I think it's like 13 states, to actually implement a community solar pilot program. And I'm like, hey, here we go. And the company I started with was Neighborhood Sun. It's my brother organization. We still work together with We Solar. And so the founder of Neighborhood Sun, Gary Skolnick, pretty much gave me my wings in the industry and now brought me here.
And that's really interesting. It sounds like to me that you've been always an ambassador of sorts. So you're currently always just constantly trying your hand in new things and not afraid to put yourself out there and say, okay, I know what the industry norm is, but I'm ready to step outside that and introduce them to what's going to be the new norm.
Exactly.
So what would the gathering of information stage look like for someone that's potentially trying to get into the solar farming industry? Like, because a lot of people don't know where to get started. So what would that look like for them if they just wanted to gather information?
Yeah, I think that's actually the biggest learning curve for solar or community solar overall is that people just don't know that it exists, or they don't know about the resources. And each state have their own portfolio or connections or organizations on the ground that serves as outlets and deal with the implementation of such programs. And so, for instance, in Maryland, you can go on wesolar.energy,
Okay.
and that's my website.
Hey.
And you'll be able to find the utilities that service Maryland, which is, PEFE if you're in West Maryland, or BG&E if you're in Baltimore, Baltimore County, Howard County, Montgomery County, Harford County, or if you're in PEPCO, which is, Montgomery County, moving closer to like northern Maryland, going to southern DC. No, I messed that up.
So you service a lot of Maryland. You don't just service a small portion or anything of Maryland. You service in multiple. I thought at first, initially, I thought you were just serving BG&E, but you're saying you service Petco and all these other. How do you formulate these partnerships with these different groups?
Well, pretty much, We Solar, my brother organization, Neighborhood Sun, there's 3 parts to the community solar field. So one are the developers. So once a developer, they're the ones that actually purchase or lease the land that the farm is located. And they're the ones that procure the contracts and the funding for the actual solar infrastructure.
Okay.
And then they said, okay, we've procured the land. We're building all these solar panels on this acreage of land. Now we need we need a contractor to do the customer acquisition, to do the sales, the marketing, to actually fill up these farms, to say, hey, 2,000 households virtually will be able to benefit from this offsite solar location. We need a contractor to actually deal with the customer-facing portion of the industry, and that's where We Solar comes in.
That's where you come in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if I was to try to be one of the contractors to procure one of these contracts potentially, because initially when I hear solar farm and I think, oh, this is a grandiose project, how do I even find funding to start something like this? So I'm thinking I have to buy the solar panels and go broker and get a good broker and find a farmer that's willing to let me set up a shop there, get a lawyer to work out the deal. But you're saying as an independent contractor, you can pretty much partner with multiple different people.
Exactly.
So how do you actually get that contract? What does that contract process look like?
Well, I think for We Solar it's my first contract, and I have several contracts under Neighborhood Sun. It's just my experience in the industry. You have to have credibility. Okay. And people, especially, let's say, for Baltimore residents, and you've also done outreach with Neighborhood Sun when I was employed with them, and Shake and Bake. And
Foot on the soil.
Yes, putting the information out, you realize that there were a lot of barriers to the community actually even trusting those who live within the community and look like them.
Very true.
And so you kind of have to have both. You got to have people who are passionate, and also like an infrastructure in a way in which you communicate it. And that's what they're looking for. So if you was to, have an interest in implementing community solar or being a contractor, you can also contact We Solar, because I am expanding my team. For instance, I am taking on 2 projects in New Jersey. And so once, We Solar is officially launched in June, we will actually be in 2 states by then.
So y'all will be expanding as well.
Yes.
So, okay. Since you're expanding your team, how does you go about building a team? So what would you say the keys to success in building a great team of independent leaders to go out and spread this message and say, hey, look, we need to be certain level of passion derived every time you go out and speak to people to make sure you have the answers?
Yeah.
How do you actually sort through those people or even find those people?
Well, I think 2 things. For one, people are really passionate and love what we do as a company, the mission. So bringing affordable energy, solar energy to the hood, environmentalists, cleaning up our local grid, offsetting our carbon footprint. And so people who want to be a part of the green movement, which it's a youth movement, they're like, how can I play my part? How can I help the environment? I'm just one person. What is it that I can do? Then you can join and be a part of a community solar team if there's a pilot program in your state. And there are states that are coming online. And so, yeah, if somebody who is really passionate about sustainability and making sure that there's a future for generations that come after us, then joining or being a community solar advocate with We Solar or other community solar organizations that's in this space, that would be, a good way or a good entry point. And so what I would look for is someone clearly who's enthusiastic about spreading the word, and someone who has a network that they'll be able to channel and do outreach with. And so, like your church, if you're part of a church or a religious organization, if you're part of a book club, or you have family members who you think would love to have you over for a house presentation, and you bring sandwiches and like, hey, let's come listen and learn about this community solar pilot program in our state. So yeah, it's two things: passion and also having a network of people that you'll be able to share the information with.
So good influencers. So it's different levels of influencers, but anybody can be an influencer basically.
Right.
So you can then bring, if you have the passion behind it and you can create that believability and resonate it with other people and leave it in them and say, okay, look, this is why we're doing this, to make the world a better place, essentially, right?
Exactly.
You're looking to make the world a better place. So for a person that might be confused, can you explain briefly what is the difference between a solar farming company and something like Solar City?
Okay. So yeah, Solar City is pretty much a company that puts solar panels on your roof. And I believe they do residential and maybe commercial properties. And so, yeah, typically if someone is like, yeah, I'm interested in solar, they're the traditional solar customer, meaning they have a home, their roof potentially is viable for solar panels and conducive for solar energy. And they will contact a solar city to say, hey, I want you to come and assess my home, my roof, and see the size allocation that would correspond with my energy needs, and go from there. The major difference between a traditional solar company or someone who's interested in traditional rooftop solar is that community solar opens the solar market by 80%, because you don't have to have
huge margin.
It is. It brings it to those who did not have it historically, meaning I'm an apartment dweller. So no, clearly I don't own a home and I don't have a roof for rooftop solar to be a thing.
But you still want to help positively impact the earth.
Exactly. I want to make sure I have green energy, and I also want to save money. And so that's the major difference, where it allows folks to access solar via these off-site shared solar farms or community solar gardens. And you give the savings similar to rooftop savings. And you're also offsetting your carbon footprint at the same time. And it's not just for homeowners or the middle class anymore. It's for everyone. So that's the main takeaway of community solar. And We Solar's mission is that we're bringing solar to everyone, not the selected few.
That's absolutely amazing. And I say that for a couple of reasons, right? Because like you said, there's a lot of people that might want to change up and get clean energy, but they can't have it because of where they're located. But also at the same time, as a homeowner myself, I look at it like, hey, let's say I get these solar panels placed on my roof. Initially, I would probably think, okay, I own these solar panels so I can kind of do what I want. But in the back of my head, I also have to take in consideration when it's time to replace the shingles with my roof. What am I do with these solar panels? I got to remove these and then replace them back on.
Right.
So it definitely is a different approach. That's a great competitive advantage.
Right.
So does it have a huge barrier to entry as far as initial investment? What does that investment look like to start a solar farm?
Well, that's a really good question. Most of my audience is actually two-pronged. They wouldn't actually need to start a solar farm because the farm is already procured through just a bidding process through the state. And so they would just, if one is interested in joining community solar, they can be a community solar advocate, meaning they can sell solar shares, and also become a customer themselves to make sure that their own household, like yourself, is receiving solar energy. And so big ups to you.
Hey, so you can get some shares in there. There you go.
And also,
some equity.
Yeah, you do have a portion of the farm. And also, like with We Solar is a startup. And so I am doing a crowd fundraising soon where you can get in and have shares in my company. Okay. So look for that down the road.
So how will people find that?
WeSolar.energy.
WeSolar.energy. We're going to link that, so we're going to be able to reference that later on.
Yes, we definitely have a crowdfunder, which, you know, the community and those who look to be a part of this startup green revolution with me and take this journey on with me will definitely be able to ride the wave and get in on the ground floor. That's the key thing. Imagine those who got in on the ground floor at Amazon.
Exactly. They're looking,
or Tesla.
If they didn't give up their shares, they're doing pretty well right now.
Exactly.
So, do you have any particular tips or advice that you would give to somebody as far as finding funding, or any particular platforms that you would advise, since you're currently using crowdfunding yourself, to find funding, or is it any grants or anything for this particular type of business?
Reaching out to friends and family, and I will open up to crowdfunding or Kickstarter a little on maybe phase 2 of my company. But phase 1, I am what they would call bootstrapping and doing a friends and family seed round for investment.
Okay, so yeah, it's always good to start off with friends and family. Not only do they get a chance to support you, but also they get a chance to work with you and understand more about what's going on. And they get to say, hey, you left me out. When I gave you a chance, the opportunity to come in, so this is your opportunity right here.
Exactly.
So
and they keep you on your toes too.
Exactly. Now you gotta be aware, so they will say, I don't know what it is that you do.
Exactly.
Because you get that chance to explain to them. Now I think customer interaction is a big portion about what you do. So who is your ideal customer, and how do you onboard them?
That's such a good question, because that's literally the bread and butter of my business model. I would say my ideal customer is anyone with a utility bill within the service area of my farms. So, for instance, right now I am in BG&E, and I'll be going into the Camden market in New Jersey.
Oh, Camden market, okay.
Yeah, so anyone who have a utility bill in those jurisdictions is my ideal customer, and primarily older household members, because they're the ones who typically have some type of connection to an organization that we've used traditionally for outreach. So those who attend like the local community association meetings, that voting block or those blocks tend to be older people, like 55 and up.
The mature audiences. Okay.
Yeah, and I would like to see more millennials, and hopefully when, We Solar, I know when it's splashed that it can actually bring a new demographic of customers, because that's my mission, is to include solar for everyone, not just for older Americans that traditionally would be at a community association meeting to learn about this new pilot program as a resource, but for younger audiences who are also will be more impacted by climate change and the environmental calamities that come from that. And so
weather is crazy.
Exactly. And so the very population that is the more direct in line to be impacted should be the ones that actually, reap the benefits of something like community solar, such as the savings, but also be more inclusive and being a part of the green movement as well.
Any best practices for getting reoccurring customers? 'Cause you need people to keep coming back, or at least to recruit for you ideally. So what about scouting potential prospects or getting those people to come back? Any just quick ideals on that?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot with Neighborhood Sun before starting We Solar, and I think loyalty and those customers, for instance, like when you signed up with Neighborhood Sun, you did not receive your benefits right away at all. And
Okay.
the reason why you stayed with us until the project actually took off is because you knew us, you knew the personal relations, you saw us in the community, and you had the trust with the organization. And so
Yes.
customers don't have a problem. You're a startup and they see that, wow, the portal is down. They're not going to say, oh, cancel my subscription. It's like, no, we know that this is a beginning company. We believe in their mission. We want to help you succeed. And so what keeps that loyalty is that, one, they know that you're a local small business owner in the community. So when they see me in the bank and they see me in the grocery store, they know I'm not lying to them. They can pull up on me anytime. Kristal, what's going on? Like you're robbing me or something like that. So transparency is huge in the trust factor. And when people know, like, wow, this is our local grown community solar energy company that's in our own backyard, people are more likely to stay.
Does it cost anything to be a part of this? As a new customer, what would it cost me to join this? Because it's too many benefits to not cost me. What is it going to cost me? Tell me.
It would just cost you your time.
My time?
Yeah.
A signature?
Exactly.
And I get savings.
And you get savings.
Up to how much?
So depending on your income, we have two programs, our open program and those who fall within low and moderate. So just as a reference, a household of 4, if you make under $80,000, you will qualify for BG&E 25% off. If you're in the PEFA utility, 30% off.
Hold on, 25 or 30%. I'm going to put this in perspective, right? Because I remember as a kid having $1.
Right.
So I feel like $1 is the best way to go about this. I just go to the store and I would buy a Top Pop and they was 50 cents. I don't know if they that no more. I used to buy ice cream sandwich. Everybody was to get on me. They were 25 cents. Yeah. And I would buy a strawberry cheesecake pastry for whatever reason. There's a lot of sweets, I know. But that was $1. Mm-hmm. Now you telling me they would give me 25% so that I can go give me an extra one.
Exactly.
Now, so I can save that money potentially and use that for a vacation because I see everybody vacationing now.
Right.
You tell me I could save some of that money to vacation potentially later on?
You can save that money to vacation. You can save that money to create economic resilience in the middle of this pandemic.
Exactly.
You can save that money to use for a savings account. And because these solar contracts are good for 20 years, imagine one who's just paying their utility bill regardless, and you just had this savings and you put it in a CD or a savings bond with interest. Now you've
interest-bearing accounts. Okay.
Exactly. You've turned that $6,000 into $17,000 over 20 years. And so it's just a no-brainer. It costs nothing. You just save money when you sign up.
That's like you said, it's no-brainer. But because when I hit contracts, I hit solar. Like I said, it sounds like such a big thing.
Yeah.
It sounds so expensive. I gotta know. It gotta have some type of licensing or permit requirements or something. What is it? What do it look like?
So yeah, like what's the entry barrier? One, you have to have a bill.
Okay.
So let's say
as a person that's trying to get into the farming industry, not as a customer this time, as if I'm trying to start my own solar farm, what does that look like as far as obtaining? Do I have to get a permit or anything do that?
Well, I'm just going to be honest. That's not my side of the fence because I deal with the customer acquisition side.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
Right. Because there's two parts of the industry. You have the developers, and then once they've financed, you procured the land, the contracts, the bidding process, then they take on a subscriber organization that deal with the customer acquisition and sales and marketing. So as far as like the A side of the industry, before it comes down to the B side, go on Maryland.org, and I can put in the exact link that explains like the steps for solar developers. So let's say a community member actually wants to build their own solar farm. They can go on Maryland's energy website to figure out the steps to that.
So the person that's building the farm has to worry about all of those contracts. But on your end, you don't have to worry about all the special licensing and permit requirements. which is excellent.
Right. My contract
So,
is different. I have to worry about the customer's contract and, retrieving the personal information because there's, a barrier. Like, for some contracts, the developers do require a FICO score requirement, particularly 680 and above. And I would like to hone on that point because that's the reason why I started We Solar. Is because when this industry first started, there wasn't a low and moderate income contract that allowed underserved or underrepresented communities into this program. You had to have a 680 credit score. You had to have 2 forms of payment. You had to have sign a 20-year contract. And that, for a community that has been historically exploited by energy companies promising them savings, is actually a big turnoff. Someone telling you that you have to sign a 20-year contract. I don't really understand renewable energy space as is. And one, I don't have the credit score. It leaves a lot of people outside of this industry or the benefits that this industry provides.
So We Solar is breaking the boundaries between
exactly.
And
because
the people, the downtrodden, and getting everybody involved.
Everyone, because one, I do sell the open contracts, which have 680 requirements, or also commercial businesses. But I wanted to focus on the contracts where, there's a lot more teaching involved because there's a learning curve in our community where people don't believe people knocking on their door promising them energy savings. And if grandma of 88 years old was bamboozled by Joe Smoke knocking on her door, I would tell her to not listen to those people either, including me. And so, that's why I'm building a team. And your previous questions, like, well, how do you get people interested? You tap into other influencers where they're like, oh, I may not trust the guy knocking at my door, but I trust Susan May at my church. And she, brought in a whole community of folks. Like one of my customers, Miss Yvonne Logan, I met her at a community meeting.
Okay.
And Miss Logan brought in her parents, her kids. And that's the same thing that I'll continue to do and build on in Maryland, in Jersey, is finding local advocates that's also passionate about it, that can break the barrier in our communities, because there's a trusting in anyone that take on this journey with me and say, Kristal, I want to be a community solar advocate. I want to sign up and bring solar to my hood. How can I be a part of this? You will notice and come across the same adversity of folks just, like you said, this is too good to be true.
And it's interesting that you bring up marketing and how you be able to tap into, like you said, friends and family, and hey, you're referring me based off of good business. You're bringing good business to the table, so they're going to want to tell people about it.
Right.
Say, look, I experienced the savings, so now I want to share that with you. What would you say, as part of the acquisition and marketing side, is the best way, in your opinion, to market this type of business? What platforms, or what's the best way to use? Cards?
Yeah.
What do you use to market this type of business?
Right. Well, I think, in these times of COVID-19, with social distancing, the best way to market is digital marketing.
Any particular platforms?
Yeah, like Facebook and Google, obviously. Google ads, Facebook ads. It just has a huge reach. Plug in your zip codes and your demographic. And boom, ads will pop up. And so I would definitely say a digital marketing strategy, campaign, on-point messaging, knowing your audience, and also building those community relations, because you got to have folks on the ground and people to vouch for you as well. Okay.
Well, we're about to wrap up soon, but before we let you go, I need to ask you, what is the number one book or app that you would recommend, or website that you would recommend to somebody that wants to gain more information about getting into this space? Because you're the ambassador for Black women throughout America right now and stepping into this position.
Oh, wow.
And as that person, it's a little girl somewhere that's looking at you and saying, I want to do that when I get older. What book, app, or website would you point her to get started?
Oh, wow. So you mean started in my industry, or just like
your industry?
Well, I would say go to my Facebook page, which is We Solar Energy. My website, www.wesolar.energy, or Twitter, We Solar Energy. And you will find more information about the company, the mission, how I got started, what other endeavors We Solar is embarking on. And definitely you can always reach me at Kristal@wesolar.energy if someone wanted to contact me directly.
So I'm guessing that's the best way to get to you. So thank you again for joining us for another episode of My Secret Mentor, our special guest, Miss Hansley. And check her out on all those platforms. And as always, remember, dreams plus action equals life.
Follow your dreams.